Hey everyone, Winston here. Let me ask you something. That cash you're carrying, your credit card limit, your mortgage payment, do you really think those just happened naturally? Well, I hate to break it to you, but they didn't. Every single rule about how money works today was written by a small group of powerful men meeting in secret away from public eyes, and here's the kicker. This pattern has been repeating itself for over 400 years, and it's still happening right now. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on the biggest financial conspiracy that's hiding in plain sight. Stick around because what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you see money forever. The Dutch Deception. Our story kicks off in the early 1600s in Amsterdam. The Dutch were absolutely crushing it, trading with every corner of the globe, ships everywhere, money flowing like crazy. But there was one massive headache: total monetary chaos. Everyone was using different coins, different values. Half of them were fake or shaved down. Trust basically zero. So what happened? In 1609, a tight circle of Amsterdam's wealthiest merchants got together behind closed doors. No public announcement, no debate, just a quiet gathering. And boom, they created the Whistle Bank, the world's first real central bank. They sold it to the public as a solution to make trading easier and more stable. Sounds good, right? Here's what they didn't say. This bank gave them complete control over what counted as real money. They decided who was trustworthy, what had value, and how trade would flow. The average Dutch citizen, they had zero say in any of it. This was banking's original sin. Promise the people stability, but keep all the power for yourself. And this playbook, it's been used ever since. England's backroom deal. Fast forward to 1694, England's got problems. King William III is burning through cash fighting France, and the royal treasury is completely empty. Enter William Paterson and a crew of London's biggest financial players. They come to the king with an offer he can't refuse. We'll loan you the money you desperately need, but in exchange you create a brand new institution called the Bank of England. On the surface, it looked patriotic, a national bank to save the kingdom. But in reality, this was the moment when government power married private finance. For the first time ever, a nation's ability to fight wars, to borrow, to even survive was tied directly to a bank controlled by private interests, not the government itself. The Bank of England started printing paper notes that became as trusted as gold coins. And with those notes came something brand new: permanent national debt. Future generations of taxpayers would pay for today's wars, all managed through this private bank. Britain's entire empire was built not just on military might, but on this secret arrangement between royalty and bankers. Once again, the pattern locked in. Major financial decisions made in private, not in parliament. The Rothschild network. Now we jump to the 1800s, and here's where things get really sophisticated. Enter the Rothschild family. These guys operated across 5 major European cities: Frankfurt, London, Paris, Vienna, Naples. They weren't just a bank, they were an intelligence network. The most famous story? Nathan Rothschild after the Battle of Waterloo. While the British public waited days to find out if Napoleon had been defeated, Rothschild had private couriers who brought him the news in hours. He moved fast, bought government bonds while everyone else panicked, and made an absolute fortune. But forget the legend of one trade. The real point is this: the Rothschilds controlled information faster than governments. They coordinated investments across borders through private family councils that no outsider ever attended. They financed kings, built railroads, propped up entire governments, all from meetings the public knew nothing about. This wasn't capitalism working in the open. This was concentrated financial power operating in the shadows. By now, the architecture was crystal clear. First the Dutch merchants, then British financiers, then European banking dynasties. Every single time, the public was told it was about progress and security. Every single time, the real winners were the small groups who designed the game. Jekyll Island, America's secret but the most infamous meeting of them all. That happened in America on a tiny private island off the Georgia coast, and it created the system we're still living under today. By the early 1900s, America was an economic powerhouse, but its banking system was a disaster. Banks collapsed constantly. Financial panics hit every couple of decades. And in 1907, everything nearly fell apart. Markets crashed, banks shut down, people lined up desperate to get their savings out. Who saved the day? Not the government. J.P. Morgan, the richest banker in America, locked other bankers in his library and personally organized a rescue. Americans watched in horror as one private citizen proved more powerful than their entire government. Something had to change. That crisis gave the bankers exactly what they needed: justification for a central bank. But there was a problem. Americans hated Wall Street and didn't trust monopolies. So the plan had to be created in total secrecy, November 1910. Senator Nelson Aldrich, related by marriage to the Rockefellers, boards a private train in New Jersey. With him, the most powerful bankers in America. They used fake names and cover stories. Destination Jekyll Island, a private hunting club owned by elite families like the Morgans and Vanderbilts. For one full week inside a secluded lodge, these men drafted the blueprint for the Federal Reserve. Who was there? Henry Davidson from J.P. Morgan, Charles Norton from First National Bank, Frank Vanderlip from National City Bank, and most importantly, Paul Warburg, whose family had direct ties to the Rothschilds in Europe. The secrecy was absolute. Journalists were told it was just a duck hunting trip. Inside, they designed a central bank disguised as a government institution, but actually built by and for bankers. 3 years later, on December 23, 1913, while most politicians had already left Washington for Christmas, the Federal Reserve Act quietly passed. President Woodrow Wilson signed it. The Fed was born. On paper, it looked democratic, with regional banks and a board in Washington. In reality, it centralized control of America's entire money supply into an institution deliberately protected from voter oversight. The public was promised it would prevent crises. What it actually did was give Wall Street and Washington a machine to manage crises on their own terms. Going global, the pattern spread internationally. In 1930, under the excuse of managing German war reparations, financial elites created the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. This became the central bank for central banks, founded through quiet negotiations between European powers and bankers. To this day, its meetings are completely closed to the public. During World War II, it controversially moved gold and payments between nations at war, operating through neutral Switzerland. In peacetime, it became the invisible table where global monetary policy gets coordinated. World central bankers still fly to Basel regularly, meet in the Tower of Basel, and decide how the global financial system will function. No press allowed, no parliament involved, no citizens informed. Institutional secrecy at its finest. Bretton Woods, the dollar empire, then came the big one. Summer of 1944, as World War II was ending. 700 delegates from 44 nations gathered at a hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Officially, it was a grand international conference to build a peaceful financial order. But just like every other turning point, the real deals happened in side rooms in late-night sessions between a handful of men who understood that whoever controlled money after the war would control the entire world. Two men dominated. John Maynard Keynes, the brilliant British economist, wanted a balanced system with a new supranational currency called the Bancor. Across the table, Harry Dexter White, representing the U.S. Treasury, knew America held all the cards, half the world's gold, untouched factories, and the only financial system strong enough to rebuild Europe and Asia. Guess who won? The Bretton Woods system made the U.S. dollar the global reserve currency, backed by American gold. Out of those meetings came the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, sold as tools for global development, but designed from day one to concentrate financial power in the hands of the strongest creditors. Once again, cooperation was the sales pitch, control was the reality. For 25 years, the system held. Currencies were pegged to the dollar was pegged to gold. But by the late 1960s, the cracks showed. America was spending like crazy on the Vietnam War and domestic programs, printing way more dollars than it had gold to back them. Foreign governments started demanding their gold back. And in August 1971, President Richard Nixon went on TV and announced the U.S. would temporarily suspend the dollar's convertibility to gold. That temporary measure never ended. From that moment forward, money became what it is today, pure fiat currency, backed by nothing except trust in governments and central banks. The entire global financial system transformed overnight, not through a public vote, but through a decision made by a small group behind closed doors. Today's hidden meetings. Think this only happened in the past? Think again. Every single year, central bankers and economists fly to Jackson Hole, Wyoming for a private symposium hosted by the Federal Reserve. Decisions made there affect mortgage rates in Europe, stock prices in Asia, everything. The public only hears about it in press conferences after the fact. The real conversations, still totally opaque. Right now, governments worldwide are developing central bank digital currencies, programmable money that could completely reshape the relationship between citizens and the state. Where's this being designed? In closed committees, working groups, and invitation-only conferences. The pattern hasn't changed since Amsterdam in 1609 or Jekyll Island in 1910. A crisis happens, elites gather privately, new rules emerge, and the public finds out only when it's too late to object. Conclusion and lesson. So what's the lesson here? Financial systems aren't natural forces that just evolved over time. They're human constructions born from secret agreements and protected interests. When you swipe your card, take out a loan, or watch inflation eat your savings, you're living inside a structure shaped not by democratic debate, but by centuries of backroom deals. Understanding this is step one toward real financial education. If you think money is neutral, you'll always be blindsided when the system fails you. But if you understand that money equals power, built through secret councils of the powerful, you can start protecting yourself. Diversify, question official promises, recognize that the rules can flip overnight because they will. History doesn't repeat, but the pattern is relentless. Stability gets promised, control gets centralized, crises expose the cracks, and new systems get drafted in secret. From Amsterdam to the Bank of England to the Rothschilds to Jekyll Island to Basel to Bretton Woods, the story stays the same. A few decide, the many adapt. The tragedy, most people never realize it. The opportunity, if you're listening right now, you can refuse to stay blind. History won't crush you for what you know. It'll crush you for what you ignore. And the biggest financial mistake of all is believing the system exists to serve you. It never did. It serves those who built it in secrecy, in silence, and always in their own interest. Alright, so here's my question for you. Do you think these secret meetings still shape our economy today, or has the system finally become transparent? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you think. If this video opened your eyes to something you didn't know before, make sure you hit that subscribe button to Financial Historian Bamboo. If you liked it, smash that like button. If you didn't, hit dislike. Either way, your feedback matters to me. Until next time, stay sharp out there. This is Winston signing off.